So, having had now a chance to process the assassination of Charlie Kirk, first, assassination seems to fit what it is we saw there in Utah, Orem, Utah, at Utah Valley University. Yeah, Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician, but certainly political, and certainly one can argue, even though we don't have a shooter in custody yet, absolutely we've got ourselves somebody who was killed because of their political belief, because of their political affiliation, because of their political connections, because of what they said. And I think that the term assassination fits. And a lot of people, a lot of radio hosts, a lot of TV people who had connection to him have all had their commentaries, and they've ranged from angry and rage-filled to sad and introspective. I wouldn't actually expect anything else. And certainly, I think for a lot of people, they saw for the first time exactly the kind of reach Charlie Kirk had. I didn't know Charlie. I met him once at a CPAC event years ago. I spoke at one Turning Point event, chapter event here in Indianapolis. That's my total amount of connection. A lot of people will tell you about all the connections they had. I don't question those. I do ask what our plan is, because one thing that is clear is that the Rubicon has been crossed. If indeed we're shooting at people for their political beliefs, we're not talking about candidates, we're not talking about politicians. If we go through history, we will see example after example after example of politicians being attacked, being killed for political beliefs by radicals and others. We've seen this in the United States, we've seen this in other countries. The assassination of Charlie Kirk is different. This is crossing the Rubicon. Some people on the left want to say, well, how come you're not talking about this murder or that murder? We're talking about a lot of murders. We're talking about a lot of horror that's going on. We talked about Irina Zarutska in Charlotte. We were told that we were just inventing that story, making it more than it was. This woman who was stabbed to death on the light rail, and no one came to her aid. They ran from trying to help her. This is about a broken society that we're witnessing and we're seeing. And some people want to immediately say, well, it's because you won't get rid of guns. And if you got rid of guns, you wouldn't have these problems. Millions and millions and millions of law-abiding gun owners. The gun is not the issue. It is the people firing the gun that is the issue. And while the left may think that that's somehow avoiding the bigger story where you're going to have more of these problems, not if we engage culturally about what it is that we're seeing. That is a hard subject. I don't claim to have every answer. What I bring, hopefully, is the reminder that a day was taken to process, which I think makes sense. And tomorrow, just like every radio host I know was on the air today, they'll be on the air tomorrow. Just like everybody who does commentary was speaking today, they're going to speak tomorrow. And that is the only answer. Our answers have to come in a ballot box. They cannot come via the barrel of the gun. But that doesn't mean we're supposed to be people who await bad things to happen to us as if somehow martyrdom is valuable. Let's be clear, it's not. Charlie Kirk was better for the conversation alive than as a martyr. And while people may want to make him one, and he may very well end up being one, and there's a legacy that clearly can grow from here, and most probably will, we're not better off because he's gone. There's no win in this. No. What is best is that all issues get settled at the ballot box and we keep speaking. Now, in order to keep speaking, you have to accept the fact that there is a violent element out there, radicalized for a whole series of reasons, and that isn't going to go away overnight. There is no switch that changes this, that all of a sudden gets people to say, okay, we'll just agree to disagree, or we'll go vote and sometimes we'll win and sometimes we'll lose. No, that's not it. The only way out is through. And that means that you still have to do your events. You still have to go meet people. You still have to walk down the street. You still have to go out to dinner. There are violent people out there who have gotten themselves totally into the idea that somehow the people on the political right have to be destroyed. You know, it's the Charles Krauthammer line, rest his soul. The right thinks the left is wrong, and the left thinks the right is evil. Now, there's a lot of truth to that, and there'll be people on the left to say, well, there's plenty of violence from the political right. The argument before us is who is killing whom. And the recent history, even if we only go back to the shooting of Congressman Steve Scalise, is that the left is killing the right. We want to talk about what happened in Minnesota, where lawmakers are killed. We still don't have the full story there, and we should. But we are living in a moment that this cannot be denied, and it shouldn't be. Does this mean it's everybody on the left? Absolutely not. Does this mean that there are people who are political leaders on the left who are absolutely excusing this behavior? Yes, it does. All of them, no. Too many? Yes. Certainly, if you were to watch the TikTok crowd, you'd be sickened by the people who are cheering the death of Charlie Kirk, cheering the killing of people on the political right, going down that Matthew Dowd line of reasoning that he said on MSNBC just an hour after the shooting took place. Well, you say hateful things, you should expect hateful things to happen. Which is a different way of saying, well, Charlie Kirk's skirt was too short and that's why he was raped. That is the exact same disgusting argument. And to the credit of MSNBC, they fired Matthew Dowd. And good. The only thing we can do is tomorrow wake up, drink our coffee, brush our teeth, and go about our lives continuing these conversations. Our conversations of what is right and what is wrong, our conversations of how you create a better society and the things that are doing great damage to society. And convincing people that we are right and they are wrong and they should vote in a certain direction so we can engage the policies that create the more perfect union, that get us to the better place. I am no fool. Gosh, I hope not. Is there going to be more violence? Why would I believe there wouldn't be? Do I believe that any radio host or television commentator is totally safe? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that's because for us, we're more in the public eye. Do I believe that anybody is safe because of their Facebook post or because of their X post or because of their Instagram post or their TikTok? No. I don't believe there's actually any difference at this moment between what you're writing about, what you're sharing, and what I'm sharing. Maybe a different platform. I may have a bigger platform than you, and there are other people who absolutely have a bigger platform than I do. But we are all in the same boat, which is there are people out there who believe we shouldn't be allowed to speak. They have been told so often that we are evil and a threat to democracy that they have internalized it and they believe that they have to do something about it. I do believe this is the case. When you take a look at the shooting of President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, this was absolutely the case. That was a lone wolf. Someone who felt compelled to do something because they've been told he is a threat when he is not a threat. A guy who listens to judges, appeals decisions, sure, utilizing the justice system is not a dictator. As a matter of just sheer definition, there is no debate that I am right about this, that the facts are on my side and on the side of rational thought. The idea that Trump is a dictator is madness, but this is bigger than Donald Trump. This is about people who believe that anybody who disagrees with them is that same threat and has to be taken out. Anybody who doesn't say what they believe is somehow an aggressor, is somehow attacking, is somehow vilifying, is somehow demeaning. My disagreement with policy, my disagreement with actions is more than acceptable, and so is yours. And because we might disagree with others, sadly and sickeningly, we are the ones being threatened. And the only way out is through. The only way out of this is to continue to be people who speak about what it is we believe, utilizing facts, logic, and reason at all times, what's at least my way of doing it, and engaging, trying to persuade, and not being deterred. Yes, I do believe other violent acts will happen, and yes, I think it's horrific and gross and disgusting and evil, absolutely, in every single way. But I'm going to keep showing up to places. Am I going to be aware, and when I do events, as I do, about security? Even more so, and I already have security at my events. Am I going to be aware of the security at events I attend and ensure that it is proper? Absolutely. But all the security in the world sometimes doesn't stop the madman, doesn't stop the person who has been so brainwashed and so utterly mentally destroyed, filled with such hate that it rots the brain and leads them to horrific action like we saw with Charlie Kirk. I have not seen an incident that has moved so many people in so many ways. And I didn't know Charlie. And I know a lot of people who didn't know Charlie who are just in a daze like, my gosh, what has happened here? What is happening here? Well, what is happening here is that years of cultural rot, years of these horrific claims, years from the time Charles Krauthammer, rest his soul, said those words, the right thinks the left is wrong and the left thinks the right is evil. It has built itself up. It built itself up to this zenith. And it doesn't stop overnight. There is no switch. The only way out is through, where we continue to speak, where we continue to engage, where we continue to try and persuade. We protect ourselves to the best of our ability. We utilize our Second Amendment rights unquestionably. We make sure to the best of our ability that the security is there without giving up our liberty, without giving up our freedom, and without living in any fear. You have to walk down the street, you have to go to the store, and you are allowed to speak your mind. And you should. Even if you disagree with me, which I think is madness, but you're allowed. And you shouldn't be afraid to. The fear is the desire. Because as much as we can call what happened to Charlie Kirk an assassination, we should call it what it is: terrorism. This is about trying to terrorize others into silence so they don't engage, so they don't persuade, so they don't bring it to the ballot box. They should live in fear and quiet and submit. It's not the American way, and it's not your way. And I would only suggest that no matter how hard or how frightening it is, and I get you, I hear you, I understand this, I don't think we're any different. I think we're in the same boat, no matter how frightening. We don't give in to terrorists. Not now and not ever. All the thoughts and prayers in the world for Charlie Kirk's family and friends who are dealing with this and will be for the rest of their lives. For all of us, keep talking. I'll be listening. Agree or disagree. I'm Tony Katz.